Welcome to the Build Smart, Lead Strong podcast on the Michigan Business Network. My name is Jennifer DeMudd, Executive Director of the Manufacturing Growth Alliance, also known as MGA. Here with us today is Rufino Valentine, President and Founder of Valentine Distilling Company. They are a manufacturer of world-class handcrafted spirits. Thank you for being here with us today, Rufino. We appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts about your company and the industry.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm always open to talk about manufacturing. That's why I started this company in the first place.
Fantastic. Well, you're the right guest for us today. All businesses have a story of why they started. Will you tell us a little bit about your story? Where are you located? What do you manufacture? And what is your passion?
Well, this business is my passion, and we're located in Ferndale. We actually have two locations. We have our retail location, tasting room / cocktail lounge. And then also in Ferndale, we have our production facility. You might hear factory noises in the background, but that's what it is over here. So this is a 20,000 square foot facility. We have been doing this for a little bit over 13 years now.
Wow.
And yeah, essentially we handcraft or small batch distill whiskey, gin, and vodka, and a bunch of different types of each one of those things.
I've been on your website, and I have to say, very impressive, and you have a lot of amazing photos. It makes you want to buy.
Yeah.
Great Christmas gifts, too.
All time of year, but yeah.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. I'm thinking of Christmas already. But so Valentine Distilling is on a path to becoming one of the greenest distilleries in the country, investing heavily in equipment to become more sustainable. Will you share with us a little bit why this path?
Yeah, it kind of ties into the whole reason that I started this business in the first place. Maybe just to back up a second,
Sure.
The reason I kind of started this was I worked on Wall Street for about a decade or so. And so firsthand, I saw kind of what was happening, especially in manufacturing with publicly traded companies and that sort of thing. But what I kind of saw was a degradation in the quality of the products. I saw it as kind of a race to the bottom. I think, some of the larger companies would consider it efficiencies and, profit margins, but especially for consumable goods, so when we're having a nice cocktail, we're out at a nice dinner, I don't necessarily want something that was manufactured as quickly and cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
So when I realized that, the giant liquor companies, and there's just a handful of them that supply, 90% of what we consume, I thought there was room in there. Let's put the product first. So, do things kind of the way they were meant to be done, which isn't always the fastest and the cheapest, but in my mind, that's the way to get the best product. So going back to, kind of turning the page back 100 or 200 years and just doing things the way they were done way back then, doing things the right way. So then when you talk about green and, what we're facing today as a global society, it just seemed like the right thing to do to try to do this as green as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Distilleries by nature, are very energy intensive. We use a lot of processed water, and we use a lot of just other energy for steam, and we do a lot of heating and cooling here. So it was just like, let's look at some of the largest consumers of energy that we're doing here, or things like water, and let's try to tackle those problems first with the equipment that we put in, and we continue to add more equipment all the time. But some of that equipment, when we're running the big still that you see behind me, that uses 2,000 gallons of processed water a day.
Wow.
So we put in equipment. Most distilleries, that'll go right down the drain, or hot water will go back into a stream. which isn't good for the environment either. So we put in equipment where we can reprocess that water and recapture about 95% of that processed water. A couple other things that we've done, and here in Michigan, we know about half of the year the ambient temperature outside is below 50 degrees. So replacing our refrigeration units with what we call a free chiller. So we use the outside air rather than our refrigeration unit to keep things cool. So that's a couple of things that we've done here.
Only in Michigan. Well, maybe not only in Michigan, but a benefit.
Definitely the northern climes.
Yeah, I was on your website, and you're 2019 50 companies to watch. So I'm familiar with your company since then, and you have won a lot of awards over the years for your product. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, part of the goal, actually the main goal. So it was about making quality products. It wasn't necessarily the goal wasn't necessarily to be a local manufacturer. In fact, we call ourselves a regional manufacturer. We all know the benefits of that to our tax base, to the people that we employ, to the suppliers that we use. That to me is all icing on the cake. And that again is kind of going back a few years before, a couple major companies kind of scooped up all the small manufacturers, and they don't really exist anymore, especially in spirits. But so the local aspect was, we recognized the benefits of it, but I didn't want to sell our products on just that aspect. I needed to be able to prove that we here in the US and here in Michigan still make some of the best products in the world. So that's why a lot of the awards that we've received are important to us. Some of them even amaze myself. So we set out with this goal to make some of the world's best products. You always set a high goal. You never know, if you're going to get there or not. But some of the awards still amaze me. Our vodka, for instance, two years in a row won best in the world. Giant competition in London. Distilleries from all over the world. A lot of them have been in business for 50, 100 years, and we were able to win that twice in a row. And then some of our bourbons have been rated some of the highest in the world. Last year, one of our bourbons won top 10 in the world from the Whiskey Advocate. So it just kind of falls in line. I don't want somebody to buy this just because it's local. I want them to buy it because it's better, and it's icing on the cake that it's local too.
Well, I'm confident that it is absolutely fantastic. I'll have to try some a little later time.
This weekend,
yeah. There you go. So there have been a number of challenges in 2020. How have you navigated the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, you say it's tough, and I don't know if that even describes it. And everybody's in the same boat. So, we don't want to say, I don't like saying, well, we've had a hard time or whatever, because I know everybody's had a hard time. But we've really been able to get through it so far. And we're still worried about, the next 3 or 4 months, especially. I think they might be some of the most challenging for us. But just to start off at the beginning, in mid-March, half of our distribution sales across the 12 states that we distribute to, almost half go to bars and restaurants. So for a good, a good 3 months or something, about half of our sales were just chopped off, completely. And that's not to mention our own retail location was completely closed down too. During that time, we made the decision basically overnight to make hand sanitizer. So for the first couple months, we were extremely busy doing the hand sanitizer, and it was able to allow us to keep most of our staff still employed during that time. We sold a lot, we gave a lot away. It was nice that we were set up. That's what we do here, is make alcohol. So during that shortage of alcohol for hand sanitizer, we just cranked up the equipment, and we're really running it harder and longer than we've ever run it before, just to make hand sanitizer. We stopped producing all of our spirits. That was the only thing we were doing. And the demand was so much at one point, there was a shortage of packaging. So we couldn't get plastic bottles, plastic spray bottles, just a worldwide shortage of that. So we bottled in some of our liquor bottles. And we went through,
Wow.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
We went through almost a year's supply of our gin and whiskey bottles in about 2 weeks. So that'll give you some sort of an idea of like the demand for that at the time. That, ended pretty quickly. As soon as the big suppliers were able to catch up in that pretty much stopped. So then we went back to focusing on our core business. And there's been a lot of press about, so we sell the bars and restaurants, and then the other half of our distribution is the liquor stores. There's been a lot of press about the increase in sales from liquor stores. Nobody talks about the restaurant side of it. There was an increase in the liquor stores, but that was not nearly enough to make up for what we were losing on the other side. But, we worked with a lot of our retailers, especially here in Michigan, and it was a chance to have a new conversation with them. And it was a conversation about that regional manufacturing. So, you had the conversation where, look, Bacardi, which makes Grey Goose and, half the things you see on the shelves, they weren't giving you hand sanitizer when you needed it. They weren't supplying it. They weren't supplying it to the hospitals and nurses, fire departments. We were here to do that. So that was what I've been talking about for the past 13 years, the importance of that regional manufacturing. So it opened up a new conversation with some of our customers. So, flash forward to 6 or 7 months, however long it's been. I don't know. It's been a whole time warp, I think.
It has.
Right? Like, it's hard to remember the beginning of this thing. But so now, we're back on track. We're building back some of our restaurants. A lot of them are out of business forever and won't come back. We think that it will be a good 3, 4, 5 years before we build that side of the business back up to where it was before. And then we just continue to focus on the liquor stores and our other states too. So it's been a challenge, but we're getting through it, knock on wood, and the next 3 or 4 months will be a challenge, but we'll get through those too and hopefully come out stronger on the other side.
Well, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, but I have to say it. Thank you so much for stepping up and producing the sanitizer when we needed it. I mean, our small businesses, you being the prime example, stepped up to provide the needed equipment, the needed sanitizer that all communities needed to move forward. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole point of it.
So what are some of the biggest trends you've seen in the craft distilling industry? Can you share a trend or two that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest trends that we're seeing right now, and it's been going on maybe 3, 4, 5 years, is the consumer is shifting to brown spirits. So anything that's aged, and mainly bourbon whiskey. Bourbon whiskey is really driving that trend. We've been making bourbon whiskey, since we opened a long time ago. But of course, there's an enormous lead time. Other manufacturers, I don't think, can quite appreciate what a bourbon distillery goes through. The youngest bourbon that we sell is 4 years old. So, and more often it's 5, 6, and up to 13 years old. So it's a real challenge to be able to project that far out. As a small company, we have to keep track of our inventories, and we can't produce too much. You don't want to produce too little. So that the turn towards brown spirits has been a challenge. It's been great too, because we have it. We're in a position now where every single drop that we have is sold before we even bottle it.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's a good thing. The problem on the other side is our sales would be 5 or 10 times what they are right now if I had enough supply. If 4 or 5 years ago, I had the ability to kind of foresee that. So that's good. It's a good market for us. Um, the other thing that I see in this industry, and it's a, craft is kind of taking on a new meaning now. So when 13 years ago, when we started this, we were probably one of a couple dozen distilleries across the country doing this, craft or micro distilleries doing this. Over the past 13 years, that's grown to over 2,000. And with the success of those 2,000 micro distilleries, now what we're seeing is uh, Wall Street money, hedge fund money coming in and opening up what could barely be considered craft. So there's a lot of a lot of large money coming in and opening these things. It's good for the industry. It's good for everybody. But it's just kind of funny to see something that started with the smallest players, and that was the whole thing. Now is being is kind of taken over by the large companies, and the large companies are starting to buy some of these more successful craft distilleries and that sort of thing. So those are two of the major trends that I think are happening right now.
So thinking about trends, you kind of talked about it, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to expand if you want to. What are some of the biggest opportunities you see in the next 2-3 years?
Yeah, so we're only in 12 states, so I think right there is a huge opportunity for us. It's not because we can't be in more states, but we're trying to grow smartly, or we're trying to grow. We don't want our growth to outpace our quality, I suppose. So where I think a lot of companies might have just focused on getting as big as they can at the beginning, we're in this for the long term. So this isn't about just seeing how big we can get and then selling it off or doing whatever. This is about keeping our philosophy and growing at a rate that we can sustain and we can keep that quality up. So that's the first thing that we're doing. And every year we add a couple more states, but it's expanding our footprint. And although we're one of the largest craft distilleries in the country right now, we still have a long way to go just in the US. And there's a lot of opportunity overseas too. There are big whiskey and gin and vodka markets overseas, which we've tapped into just a little bit, but haven't done a whole lot there yet. So I think those are the biggest opportunities that we're looking forward to.
You'll be looking for a bigger facility. You said you had a 20,000 square foot facility.
Yeah. So, when we started, it was a 5,000 square foot facility. Wow. We're actually distilling in about 2,500 square feet. So yeah, I call our distillery over here phase 2. And, we're looking for phase 3 and phase 4 down the road as well. But we'll see. That's a few more years.
Well, you're a 50 company to watch, so we're going to continue to watch your growth. I just have 2 more questions, and they focus more on culture and employee engagement and community engagement. So the next question I'd like to toss out to you is, having a stable workforce has been challenging for many manufacturers across the state, especially 2020. How have you leveraged your company culture to attract and retain talent?
I mean, it's a great question. And when entrepreneurs ask me, about business and people want to start these type of businesses, that's kind of the first thing I talk about. And it was one of the things that I had no idea coming into this, how important and how challenging having a quality and stable workforce where you don't want a lot of turnover. Turnover is very expensive. So we've been fortunate. We've found great talent, and we've been able to retain them. A lot of that is because of our philosophy, because we're trying to be more than just a money-making business. So employees see that and they want to be a part of that. Um, it's always good when you feel good about what you're doing when you go to work, right? So that is a big part of it, attracting and retaining the good employees. But then it's just treating them fairly and paying them fairly. So it all just kind of goes hand in hand with doing things the right way. I forget who said it, but the your employees have to be able to afford your own product that you're making. So you do have to pay them well. And I think it it comes back. I mean, it's not a lost investment. So treating them fairly, paying them fairly, and having a mission bigger than just profit, I think goes a long way.
I have a feeling that the leadership is a key component to them staying as well. I mean, you have to have the right leadership that builds and cultivates that those relationships, with team. So my next question really stems off of the culture question, and that is, how do you support your employees and your community?
I mean, we try to be really engaged, especially with our city. I consider Ferndale, they're a partner of ours, and they've kind of been that way from the beginning. A lot of cities, especially for the kind of business that we're in, there's a lot of regulation in the alcohol business. But from the beginning, Ferndale made themselves a partner where they said, we're instead of trying to find ways to keep us out, they're going to look for ways to keep us here and keep us in business. So we try to do a lot of stuff with the local charities and the city and sort of stuff like that. And then the employees, we just really try to be supportive. Like, we did have to lay off or furlough a lot of our staff from the retail, our cocktail lounge, during COVID. But we tried to support them during that time as much as we could. We would sell some single barrel whiskeys that were just highly sought after, and then raise funds for the employees. And actually, not just our employees, a lot of the restaurants in the area, their employees as well, we did a lot of fundraisers for during that time, because they're our partners too. They're pouring our products every day and every night. So we, during that time especially, we came up with just fun things to raise money: single barrel bourbons, hand sanitizer, t-shirt sales, and just a bunch of different stuff to raise money for that. So it, I feel for my employee, their family, and when you are able to retain them for so long, it goes beyond just an employer-employee relationship, because I've known some of these people for over 10 years. So you have to try to support during tough times.
Well, and you're a prime example of how small businesses are the backbone of community. When you think of, you hire community members, you support community, and I just can't say enough about small businesses in general being community supporters, and then giving you another thank you for supporting community.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and we talk about this here too. Uh, Again, I'll throw Grey Goose under the bus, or whatever, or Tito's Pickett. They're not going out to lunch at the local restaurants. They're not getting their cars fixed at the local mechanics shop. That's part of that regional manufacturing that kind of gets lost. So you're right. I mean, small business is really, really important.
Well, that's all the questions that I had for you today. I'd like to ask you, is there anything I didn't ask that you'd like to share with the audience before I close this out?
Yeah, I mean, I think our green initiative, our business in general, depends upon the consumer, and it depends upon all of us, our neighbors, and it depends upon them making a choice. Do we want a race to the bottom where all we have are the cheapest products available? Or do we want to make a choice that helps in the green economy, that helps in the quality economy, that helps in the regional and local economy? So what I would say is, the next time you're looking at that liquor shelf and thinking about what you're going to take to that party or stock your home bar with, whether it's us or whether it's one of the 2,000 other craft distillers, make that decision.
And they can go online too, correct?
Well, right online on our website, we do curbside pickup. We don't ship. As the manufacturer, we can't ship, but there are a couple of vendors out there who do ship our products around the country.
Okay.
So,
all right.
and of course, your local liquor store.
I do have to give you another award for today, and that is you have the best background of anyone I've interviewed. So just wanted to toss that out before I close this out.
Thank you.
So thank you again, Rufino, for being on the show today. We'll be watching how you continue to grow in the upcoming years. You've been listening to the Build Smart, Lead Strong podcast on the Michigan Business Network. Join us for the next podcast when MGA talks with a small manufacturer in another sector of manufacturing. Thanks again.